Mhm. Good morning, good morning, good morning, everybody. Well, that was a trick. Oh my word, that was a nightmare. I have no idea. I was stuck in a doom loop with freaking live streaming. It was a nightmare. But anyway, I'm here now. Whew, thank heavens. All right, guys. Good morning, good morning. Lumberjack Landlord here. We had a fantastic night last night in boot camp. We are going to graduation week next week, where we actually get it's our last class next week, and then taking a bit of a hiatus, and then we'll start up the next boot camp in a bit. We don't have an exact date, but we're working on that stuff now. Holy cow, holy Toledo. Last night's boot camp was absolutely awesome. We had a great time. Actually was invited my attorney. And so we talked about trusts, LLCs, how my trust is structured, all of those different pieces to it. But the thing that I wanted to talk about today, and we'll answer questions about that stuff later on. But the thing that I wanted to talk about today was I basically blew up a deal. Not intentionally either. So usually, and this is where I made the mistake. I was working on a deal for a certain property. When I was working on that deal for that property, I had, it was basically, I had two maps, if you will. Give me just 1 second. Let me make sure this isn't somebody trying to work. Cool. So I was basically trying to get this deal done. I had bought a package deal. When I bought the package deal, I knew I was buying two lots. I knew I was buying two lots. Get the deal done, do the big project, finish the big rehab. We get the refi done on one of the buildings that we had redone. The other building was in really nice shape, and so it didn't need redoing. But what was really interesting is that so I started showing it for for rent. Was going to essentially just rent out the asset. And I won't share a ton of detail around that because you'll know why. But in working on this deal, so I had two tax maps. And so, one of the potential renters said, you know what? I'd actually like to buy the building. And I was like, I don't want to sell it. He's like, well, I'm going to buy it. I go, yeah, I don't want to sell it. And so he went back and forth for like 3 months. And finally we came to a number that I was like, all right, I will sell it for that. I don't want to. I still really don't want to, but for that number, I will. I like helping small local businesses, want to see this guy succeed, know that he will succeed. I'm excited for him to succeed. He's going to crush it. But still, I don't love selling my buildings. I really don't. So fast forward it. And so we're doing all the due diligence, doing all the paperwork, and we're about to close last week. And in doing that project, where we're about to close last week, it gets to the title insurance part. And they get to the title insurance part, and they're looking up the title insurance, and they're trying to put it on the policy, and they look at it and they go, oh, that's interesting. And I said, what's interesting about that? Dear heavens, why are you blowing up my phone? Okay. Got it. Perfect. So anyway, so I have this, we're basically ready to close. Title company writes back and says, hey, this is one lot and you can't sell it this way. I was like, it's not one lot. I have two tax cards. They're like, it's one lot. And I was like, okay. They're like, it's deeded as one lot. I'm like, it's not, it's two lots. I have two separate tax cards. They're taxing me on the buildings separately. They're taxing me for the swatch of land that both buildings are on separately. I need this closer. Dramatic effect. So I'm like, what the hell? So I start calling attorneys, and we all know I've got 9 of them. Yeah, but there's a reason I have 9 of them, because they're all different and some overlapping, obviously, but there's some differences. There's stuff that, they're really good at. In fact, Kate, who was on with us last night at the boot camp, she's an absolute rock star when it comes to titles, deeds, private mortgages, all the paperwork that surrounds closing. She's just elite at that stuff. And trusts. Oh, she's so good. And LLCs and business formation. She is awesome. Ask any of the people that were in the boot camp last night. So, so we're going through this process and she looks and she goes, Matt, I was like, oh no. She goes, I've never seen this before. I was like, damn it. That's never the answer that you want to hear from an attorney. I've never seen this before. Wrong answer every time. So she tells me, never seen this before. And I'm like, usually, so let's get deep in it. We start looking at it and we are looking at the deed. And the deed, I had only bought this property a few years ago. The deed, when it was done, I knew that I was buying the package. So I didn't look at the rest of the detail of the deed, not something I usually look at in this respect. Obviously, I read the deed, but didn't really think much of it. So I'm looking at the deed, and the deed doesn't have any what's called meets and bounds. I like to say meets and bounds really fast. So I like to say meets and bounds, kind of like Frank and Beans. It makes me laugh. It's funny. And so the meets and bounds thing, it's basically here's where the lots meet, and then here's the boundary. It had boundary. It had no meets. So goofy, but it had no meets where those two lots meet. So, so I'm looking and I'm like, this is going to be a problem, because when you have only the outside measurement, then you only have the bounds, the boundary. You don't have the meets where the two lots meet. So technically, not even technically, in reality, the title company is correct. They're correct. I cannot close the way that I'm set up. I'm like, we've spent 6 months on this deal. 6 months. I've spent time on it. I've spent energy on it. I've not had renters in some of the units because they want it clean. They want it clear when they take it. Oh, this is the point of frustration. Kill me now, not literally. So I'm more than a little bit bummed. So let's fast forward a little bit. Actually, it's only been going 6 minutes. I think I've been going 16 because I was 10 minutes late. My apologies. So I'm looking at this thing and I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. So I don't have meets and bounds. I don't even have something in the deed that says track 1, track 2, track 1, track 2, track 1, track 2, track 1, track 2. I don't have anything that says that. So I can't actually split this thing up. So you know what the only option that I have is? The only option that I have is I have to do a survey. Surveys are $4,000 to $6,000. Got to do a survey. No way around it. I went to the planning department. I went to the assessment department, and I was like, hey, I'm going to have the biggest suit against you guys for 50 years worth of taxes that you charge on 2 lots that weren't actually 2 lots. You can't do that. Can't do that. Naughty, naughty. And so now what's my option? Well, now my option is hire an attorney, go back and do all this other stuff, and have it take another 3 to 6 months. And I'm like, oh my goodness. I blew up my own deal because I'm a dope, because I took for granted that 2 tax cards meant that I had 2 separate lots. Now, here's the thing. In talking with 5 of my 9 attorneys, none of them had ever seen it before. They'd never seen the fact that a deed had 2 lots together with no meets and bounds, no track 1, track 2, but yet 2 separate tax cards. No one had ever seen that before. So lucky me, lucky me. So where we are now is got to have a survey done. Survey is going to take 4 to 6 weeks. Freaking hell. Survey is going to take 4 to 6 weeks. So we have to find a way to skin the cat. Different way to skin the cat, because I want the transaction closed so the new business owner can get in there and start doing work and be ready for springtime, not, late to spring. So again, strategize with another one of the attorneys. He goes, you know what? Let's condo it. So we condo it. We're going to condo the asset. So we'll condo it. Why? Because from a condo perspective, we can do all of the condo docs. And as soon as the survey is complete, it's going to be agreed to by both myself and the buyer, or myself and the buyer. And we're then able to file the condo docs, close with the title company, because they can then do title based on that. And then we're good to go. Makes it much, much, much easier. So while we do that, that's going to take about 4 weeks. Sadly, it delays everything 4 weeks. Definitely pisses me off. I completely screwed up on my own because I took for granted that it was the way that it was always going to be. Took that for granted. I expected with 2 tax cards to not have a deed that didn't have 2 separate lots. So, moral of the story, be better than me. Read the deed. Read the deed, especially if you're buying 2 properties together, but read the deed always to make sure that it has meets and bounds in it. Make sure that it has where it meets the other lot, next, the other abutters next to you, and the boundary of everything. Make sure that it has that. You need to make sure you read your deed. Read the deed. So what do? Nothing. I suck it up and I take it. It's the way it goes, because I got to pay $4,000 or $5,000, $6,000. Then I got to pay for condo docs. Then I got to pay for them to be filed. Then I got to take the survey, and then I got to go get on the company town docket, the city town docket. And then I have to make the presentation. I got to pay an attorney to do that. Look, could I do it myself? Yes. Not reality, seeing as how I have a day job and I have to take care of all the other properties. So this is the type of thing to make sure it gets done right, because it wasn't done right before. This is the thing that we want to make sure it gets done right. So what do? I got to send it out. So it's going to cost me thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars, which I'm not very thrilled about, but it is what it is. So everything is getting sent out. It's going to cost me thousands. It is what it is. And at the end of the day, I blew up my own deal. So no deal is done until it's done. I still fully expect this will close. Spoke with the buyer and his attorney last week. We're all happy with it. And so, yes, the deal will still happen, but I did blow it up. And the good news is he's getting a really good deal, and it's a really good thing for him and his business. So I'm excited for him. The downside is yeah, I completely screwed this one up. And it's costing me thousands of dollars extra, and it's taking an extra month, even after this deal has already taken 6 months. And then there was like a comment made that was like, well, we wanted to close at the end of November anyway. And I was like, yeah, I didn't want to close at the end of November. I wanted to close the middle of October, but now I have to close the end of November because I made a mistake. And so it does happen. Even with all of the times that I've done this, you got to remember 20-year attorney, 25-year attorney, 30-year attorney, 27-year attorney. They're all looking at this stuff. They're all in real estate. They all do real estate stuff. They had never seen anything like it. So it puts us in the position where we will condo it. Then we will actually subdivide it, but we'll continue basically the meets and bounds of what we're setting up as a condo. So when it's all said and done, they will be subdivided. They will become separate properties. The condo will die, but the condo at least gives us an opportunity where we can close now and actually get the guy in there, just being innovative and trying to think of ways that he doesn't lose 2 months worth of time, but he'll get all that stuff in there and we'll be good to go. So moral of the story is don't take anything for granted. Look at the deed, and make sure that, this is one of the things that can fall apart at the very last minute is the title insurer wouldn't insure it as it sat, and they couldn't because it was basically both properties. So I share my failures with you guys to make sure, and successes. But I share my failures and successes with you guys to make sure that you guys know, yeah, I still fail. I still make mistakes. They're much fewer and further between. And the nice thing is that this mistake, not one attorney looked at it and was like, oh yeah, you should have caught that. Not one. Every single one of them was like, no, you got two tax maps, 2 tax cards, 2 property cards. Yeah, of course, everything's fine. You can subdivide or you can sell as is. So it was a painful one. I won't lie. It was a painful one. But we're getting to the other side. Not everybody ends up a winner. Yeah, I mean, I guess everybody ends up a winner. I still don't love selling that property. I really do kind of like that property. I really don't want to sell it, but you know what? It's what's best for him. And it'll work out for me. It'll work out for me. Always does. So